People are dying because of the climate crisis, and the UK is funding that.
I don't believe that this decision is incompatible with net zero.
It is war. The planet is burning, it's on fire.
This is about going on that journey in a responsible and proportionate fashion.
The Rosebank Oil and Gas field is the largest in the UK, and the government's decision to approve its development has proven controversial, especially among students, who organised a protest in Durham's Market Square. I interviewed the protesters and a Conservative MP who backs the decision to examine both sides of the argument and to see more generally whether the government's climate policy is driving a rift between itself and young voters, which it will struggle to close for the next general election. I'm Richard Griffiths, and this is PalTV.
Rosebank is a complete waste of taxpayer money. It's going to cost £3.75 billion, which is going to a Norwegian oil company. And while we're in a cost of living crisis, I think that's a completely irresponsible decision by Rishi Sunak.
I think it's really important to get involved and actually show the political parties that this is something that the UK and students do care about, because otherwise they'll get away with it.
The oil field will be developed by Equinor, a Norwegian oil company. Most of the oil will be exported. We don't have the facilities to refine 500 million barrels of oil here in the UK. And after that, it will go onto the open market and just be bought by the highest bidder. So it's not doing anything for the UK-specific cost of living crisis for our energy security issues.
It is true that the oil and gas produced will be sold on the global markets, but given that the development is in this country, it could produce more than 1,000 jobs and, in some estimates, £6 to £8 billion of revenue. Why is that not a good enough reason for the green light?
Because actually, if you look on the government's website, it does claim that there'll be over 1,000 jobs, but that's in terms of actually creating it. Once it's created and sorted out, so that'll be 2026, it's only 47 jobs in terms of maintenance. So we're not looking at a good future for Scottish workers. It's not a sustainable one.
Would you go so far, do you think, as Chris Packham, the BBC presenter, who described it as an act of war against the earth?
To be honest, I would. I think we're already, over the past summer, we've seen catastrophic flooding in several countries. We're already seeing devastating consequences from climate change. It's, we're beyond a point of, it's a small amount of carbon emissions because every degree of warming makes a huge difference. Every barrel of oil burn that can be prevented will make a difference. It'll save lives, and every life is worth saving.
The protesters made it very clear that they were implacably opposed to the decision. But the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has defended it, and he appears to have the backing of most Conservative MPs. I interviewed one, Anna Firth, the Conservative MP for Southend West, to find out why she backs the decision. And she made it very clear that in her own mind, there was no case for going back now. There's been a protest up here in Durham and some opposition in your own constituency in Essex. Was it still the right decision?
Absolutely the right decision. We, as a government, we're completely 100% committed to net zero, but net zero doesn't start today. We have to transition to net zero. If we turn off the taps now, which is what many activists and protesters would like us to do, what we're going to do is we're going to reduce our energy security. We're going to make our country incredibly vulnerable to global circumstances, and we're actually going to hit the most vulnerable in our society, who will be hit with higher energy costs, will have colder homes, and therefore will be in a less healthy and safe situation.
Do you think you can see this particular decision, Rosebank, as a sort of pinnacle of what some commentators have said is a watering down of the Conservative government's environment commitments?
I don't believe that this decision is incompatible with net zero. This decision is how we get to net zero in the cleanest, most efficient way without hurting our own natural population. This is about going on that journey in a responsible and proportionate fashion to limit carbon emissions as we go along that journey, to give the UK energy security, to reduce our dependence on filthy foreign exporters, and to keep people's homes warm.
Rosebank is not getting any less controversial, and protests are still being organised up and down the UK. But the government shows no signs of wanting to reverse the decision, insisting that it will be good for Britain. With a general election potentially just around the corner, it remains to be seen how much Rosebank, but climate policy more generally, will affect voters, especially young people, when they head to the polls.